With the best brand of football in Idaho, this is the 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in. It is the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we are breaking down the 8-man game week in, week out here in the great state of Idaho, coming to you live on a Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. That's the time we aim for each and every week here on IdahoSports.com's YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Thanks for being with us live tonight. If you're hanging out, of course, you can always watch this Prepcast on replay as well. For those that are hanging out live tonight, if you could hit that like button if you're on Facebook, or that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and then share this when it's all said and done. That'll help everybody who's trying to find it on replay. It'll help them find it a little bit easier. You can also listen to the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast at IdahoSports.com, along with wherever you download and subscribe to podcasts. The Idaho 8-Man Prepcast is brought to you by Ideal, Idaho's college savings program. Let's bring on our esteemed panelists here on the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast. Let's bring on first, you know him as the owner/operator of the Idaho 8-Man X account. It is Will Hoenike. Will, what's going on?
Can you be an owner of something you didn't pay for? I mean, I'll take it. Don't get me wrong. And this show is going to be upgraded significantly over last week because you're not in a spare bedroom and I'm not wearing a t-shirt and hat. And we've got the third amigo back.
That's right. You can't own intellectual property, Will. That's what you're owning on your X account. And here is the most intellectual of the intellectuals. It is Coach Lane Kirkland from Cary. Hello.
Oh, that's really nice of you there. Another lie. I'm doing well. Glad to join you tonight, fellas.
Yeah, of course, Coach Kirkland's perfect attendance mark here on the 8-Man Prepcast was snapped last week because of all that darn smoke that came through the Magic Valley. What's the situation up where you're at, Coach Kirkland? Has it gotten any better?
It's clear and beautiful. Yeah, let's play ball.
Okay, love to hear that because we did have some games get wiped out, canceled last week. But we still did in other parts of the state have games that did take place. And of course, we always start here on the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast with our game of the week. Just the most exciting game. Doesn't matter what the implications were. Doesn't matter if it was a matchup of top 5 teams or winless teams. Just what was the most exciting game from start to finish? Second week in a row, we are headed up north to Genesee. Not to Genesee for 2 weeks in a row, but heading to North Idaho. This time, Genesee hosting Salmon River in a 1A non-conference battle. Genesee pulls out the 22-20 victory. Now, Will, Salmon River had a chance at a Hail Mary as time expires, but Caden Brummer broke it up. And so behind the running of Cameron Holmes, who had 201 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, Genesee has snapped a very lengthy losing streak with this 2-point win over the Savages.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Podrabski from Genesee over the weekend, and he said obviously the kids and the program and the community just ecstatic to finally get a win at home. First time in 700-something days that they'd won a football game. And, you're not going to look for style points. He said there's still things we can do better. There's still things we can clean up. But now the kids know that they can win, and that's a big first step, is knowing that you have what it takes to close out a W.
Coach Kirkland, in your time at Cary, the losing streaks were many, it seems like. But how does it feel to finally snap a long losing streak like that and get back into the W column?
I'm sure they're ecstatic. I didn't experience that a whole lot, but talked to a lot of coaches over my time, especially at the Missoula 8-Man Football Clinic, who are struggling in their programs and wanted some pointers here and there. And when they would get those big wins in their program, it was great for their kids and their community, and they had something to start over on and begin to rebuild and to look forward to trying to achieve once again, to get that good love and feeling back of winning football games. So congratulations, Genesee.
Yeah. How much does that help the buy-in from the players to see, hey, we went out and executed the game plan and it turned out well for us? Coach does know what he's talking about.
Yeah, it is huge. I guess actually I could say that in my first season at Oakley, I only won one game, and we beat Valley, and the kids were ecstatic. I was ecstatic. There were even some tears, and they dumped the water bucket on me. It was just a conference game, but it was a lot of fun, and we never forgot that moment. So Genesee, I think, will continue to improve throughout the season.
They've got a nice piece to build on, too. You mentioned Cameron Holmes, 200 yards this week, 180 yards last week. You go out and put up 190, 200 yards a game. That gives you a pretty nice piece that you can lean on. Yeah,
for sure. And then, defensively, Carson, this is from the Lewiston Tribune, Carson Warner Hall, Vince Crowley, each made 13 tackles. Caden Brummer had that crucial pick at the end. And yet, Salmon River was right in it too. I mean, they were the team that nearly pulled it off with an incredible Hail Mary. Blake Shepard ended up running for 1 touchdown, and then Devin Herzig ran for the other 2 scores for Salmon River. So I thought, even though Salmon River now 0-1, Genesee 1-1, I thought this was an encouraging start to a Salmon River program that's operating with some numbers for the first time in a couple of years.
Yeah, and I think we saw a little bit of that in this game, when you don't have to have 8 kids who play every single snap. I'm sure if you talk to Coach Medley in Salmon River and you talk to some of his kids, they could probably point to some games over the last couple of years where, hey, at halftime we were there, we were in the fight, and we just ran out of gas. So the fact that they're able to maybe mix in a few more kids and mix some things up, and their turn's coming. The long pin, we'll get to the long pin a little bit later. It's going to be a tough league, but there's some winnable games for Salmon River out there, and they've got some nice pieces.
Yep, for sure. We are going to start our conversation in the White Pine League, both 2A and 1A, because all the games seem to cross over here in the early non-con schedule. We do have a couple comments in the chat, though, and the hype is already building for this Butte County Carey showdown. Here's Howard Wood. There's going to be a traveling trophy for the Butte Carey game, the Crater Bowl. A little more hype for the big game. Go Butte Pirates. Yes, I grabbed a picture of the trophy, and we'll show it to you here in just a little bit. And then here's Lacey Thorngren from Butte County, Howard Wood, #1 fan. So already you can tell, this Butte County Carey matchup is going to be a tasty one for sure. We'll talk about it in due time, I promise. Hang tight with us here on the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast. First, though, let's talk about what happened in the White Pine League. We did have some actual conference games. Kendrick beats Troy 86-8. Sawyer Hewitt, 5 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 receiving, also a 70-yard punt return. Maddox Kirkland making his first varsity start for Kendrick, just a sophomore quarterback replacing Ty Kep. 6 of 8 passing, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. Xavier Carpenter, 4 carries, 2 of them ended in the end zone, so 2 touchdowns on just 4 carries for 96 yards. So that's Kendrick beating Troy 86-8. Kendrick 1-0 to start the year, also 1-0 in White Pine play. Troy drops to 0-2 and 0-1. Logos shuts out Clearwater Valley last Thursday night. Seamus Wilson, 4 of 5 passing, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's an average of 61.5 yards per completion. Also had 5 carries for 31 yards and a rushing score. And each of Logos's top 3 receivers caught a touchdown from Seamus Wilson. That would be Lucius Comas, Dominic Porras, and Ryan Daniels. Down the road in Deary, Prairie was playing Deary. It was the return of Ryan Hasselstrom on the Pirates sideline in his second stint coaching Prairie High. They pick up a 44-8 win over Deary. Dylan Hewlin caught 11 carries, 135 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Chris Schumacher added 92 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. So Prairie wins in their season debut. And then Kamiai and Lapwai play in a White Pine League showdown. 58-8 Kamiai. David Clute throws for 160 yards, runs for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 3 scores on the ground. Everett Oatman goes over 100 yards rushing. It was an impressive performance by that Kamiai offensive line, especially as they beat Lapwai. And then Potlatch shuts out Timberline 44-0. Jay Marshall takes over at quarterback for the graduated Jack Clark. He goes 6 for 7, 3 touchdown passes, ran for 2 scores. The caveat with this game was it was called at halftime. We hate to hear this. Timberline starting quarterback Corbin Christopherson, who is, I think, a really promising player, just a sophomore. He left with an injury. Another kid left with an injury for Timberline of Weipe. And they had to do this a couple of times last year, just looked at the bench and said, we don't have the bodies to compete. They called the game at halftime. Potlatch gets the 44-0 win. And we certainly hope everybody from Timberline can get healthy and rested and get back in there, because we want to see them play. So Coach Kirkland, of those 5 teams that picked up very impressive wins, Kendrick, Logos, Kamei, Prairie, Potlatch, which one was most impressive to you?
I think the Logos game was. It was a shutout, a league game, and very important there. And I think they kind of made a statement there, putting the ball in a lot of people's hands to get each score, and kind of fine tuning a few things here. But a statement ball game, I think, for that league up north.
Will, which of the 5 teams impressed you the most?
I'll take Kamei coming off of, Lapwai coming off of a week where they put up 60-some points against Genesee, and then they just get handled by Kamei. Really nice showing for the Cubs. The Lewiston Tribune was, the players and coaches for Kamei. They've heard the questions about their offensive and defensive lines, and they were all very vocal in saying Damian Ochoa, Ryland Skinner, and Chris George did a fantastic job. And if that continues, that's going to answer a lot of questions as far as how good can this Kamei team be, because I think all 3 of us agree with Clute and with Oatman and with, some of their other landmarks, some of their other skill players. They've got a lot of talent. It's can they get the pressure from the defensive line, and can they withstand the pressure on the offensive line? And at least based on last week, based on what they said, Coach Clute, the players, the answer is yes. And that's a big, big positive for Kamei.
Yeah, and I liked David Clute's quote to the Lewiston Tribune. That's one hell of a start, basically, to sum it up. Yeah, what more needs to be said? I guess I'll take Kendrick. Now, here's the deal, all right? We're used to seeing Kendrick put up 80-plus points in the 1A ranks. They're now a 2A program. This isn't going to be – now, Kendrick might go undefeated. They might win every game, by a significant margin. It's possible. But I don't think we're going to see 86-8 week in, week out, especially when they play, some of the more seasoned teams in the White Pine League. Let's remember, Troy is unfortunately probably going to be at the bottom of the standings, along with Clearwater Valley, for different reasons. Troy because of low numbers, Clearwater Valley because of low numbers due to injuries. So for Kendrick, I thought this was an impressive performance out of the gate. I really want to see how they do against Logos, against Prairie, against Potlatch, Kamei, some of these other upper echelon teams. Now, I'm not, again, Kendrick fans, I'm not saying that they can't go undefeated and continue this dominance, but the 86-8 definitely opened my eyes. But I think, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, Coach Kirkland, but I think when they start playing some of the other White Pine teams, that gap will close.
It likely will. As Coach Hobart said in his quote in the paper there, he's still not satisfied with some things and things to work on. That's a mark of a state championship coach, and I'm looking forward to playing Oakley as their next mark on the calendar. But I think those gaps will tighten as teams as they come into that 2A league.
For sure.
Even playing in that 1A Division II league, there were a couple of grinds for them every year, and it generally came when they were playing up, when they were playing against Oakley or Butte County or whomever. So there's some challenges out there. And the thing that was impressive about this to me is, they still have Sawyer Hewitt, who is one of the preeminent 8-man players in the entire state. I think you said 5 touchdowns, Brandon. I believe it was on a total of like 7 touches. That's pretty efficient right there. But you get outside of that, you get outside of Hewitt and Twite, you got a lot of guys that are stepping into bigger roles. Maddox Kirkland got a lot of playing time last year, but it was in a quote-unquote mop-up duty role. Now he's having to go out there and be the dude. So going out there and being able to get something done right out of the chutes, it sounds easy, it sounds simple, it sounds common sense, but we got to remember sometimes we're talking about 15, 16-year-old boys, and sometimes the gears don't mesh all at the same time. So for them to go out and do it with some of these new kids stepping into larger roles, under the lights with the fans, I think it says a lot about their program that they're able to just kind of plug and play and just keep going.
Yeah, and so if we look ahead to what's on the docket here for week 3 of the White Pine schedule, one league game this week. It comes at the 2A level. It is Logos at Lapway. Coach Kirkland, this happened to Lapway last year, where they started slow because of a tough schedule and started playing well at the end of the year, but couldn't quite dig themselves out of an early hole. Lapway all of a sudden is staring down an 0-2 start in White Pine League play after falling to Kamei last week. Now they got to lick their wounds quickly. They welcome Logos to town on Friday night.
Yeah, Lapway is going to have to take a look back there the last few weeks and see where they can improve on and bring their best game here against Logos, who's starting to dial themselves in and fine tune a bit. But Lapway never fails. They have dudes and great coaches, and they always seem to come up with a great game plan. And hopefully they can get something started perhaps this week and play better.
Yep. There are no easy weeks in the White Pine League. That is for sure. A lot of good non-conference matchups this week as well. Glenns Ferry going to be making their season debut at Clearwater Valley. Glenns Ferry was supposed to play last week. Their game got canceled due to smoke. You've got Genesee at Troy. That'll be a good rivalry matchup. You've got Timberline at Salmon River. So we'll get to see the Savages. How do they rebound against a Timberline team that's reeling a little bit? Deary is going to be at Potlatch. And then there's kind of like three big games that I really think are going to be the marquee matchups. Will, the first one, you're going to be in the driver's seat for. It's our IdahoSports.com Gem State Game of the Week. For those that don't know, we're doing something new this year where we're picking one game that's a little extra special than all the others each week. And we're calling it the Gem State Game of the Week here on IdahoSports.com. And we are bringing all the bells and whistles, multiple camera angles, enhanced graphics, really making it feel like a big production, something like you'd tune in and watch on a Saturday, on ABC or something like that. And it's a neutral site showdown in Fruitland Friday night, our Gem State Game of the Week. It's going to be Valley and Prairie. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup, Will.
Really interesting to see. Prairie coming off of a nice win last week. Dylan Eulencott had a big game running the football. It felt kind of like a Ryan Hasselstrom type win, a strong ground game and a strong defense that just kind of feels like his thing. And then you got Valley, who, they lost last week, but they gave Butte a pretty good run, and they've got a pretty elite player in Josh Hardy themselves. So that is going to be a heck of a matchup, and I think we're going to learn a lot about both teams, win or lose. And much like the game we did a couple of weeks ago when Logos played Butte County here, even though Logos took the L, I think that Coach Holloway and the rest of the Logos staff could take a lot of positives out of that game. And I feel like this has the potential to be the same type of game. Yeah, maybe we lost, but hey, we learned a lot, and now we can really dial some things in when we get back into conference play. And you said the driver's seat. Does that mean I have to do play-by-play?
Yeah, I think that's what we got you down for, Will.
Oh, okay. I'll start working on my cliches.
Yeah. I guess I should have told you ahead of time. You could have tried out some of the material here on the Prepcast.
We've still got a few more minutes to go. I'll sneak a few in.
Yeah, it's going to be Valley and Prairie neutral site game in Fruitland, 6:30 Mountain Time kickoff, 5:30 for our friends in the Pacific time zone. That's perfect. You get off work, you get to catch an early game, and then you get to catch a later game if you live in North Idaho. That's a pretty sweet deal. Again, that's tomorrow night, Friday, on IdahoSports.com, the Gem State Game of the Week. The other big broadcast that we're going to have, it's going to be on Saturday, Coach Kirkland. And this has become quite the rivalry over the last couple of years. Oakley versus Kendrick. This game is going to take place Saturday in Homedale. This game will be broadcast on IdahoSports.com as well. I mean, Oakley and Kendrick, what more do we need to say?
Yeah, two great programs with great histories and titles under the belt recently. Streaks on the line. I think both teams will be prepared and show up and go at each other. And it's going to tell a great story of how Oakley can rebound after Grace putting them away a week or so ago, and if Kendrick can pick up where they left off. So I think it's going to be a great showdown, and the Homedale fans are, they're getting a treat. What a treat to have so many 8-man greats show up there in their backyard and be able to play.
Yeah, and we love it too because we get to go broadcast it at the neutral site because it is tough for fans to travel to those neutral sites. And so we're glad to be able to provide that service to the fans. So yeah, Oakley, last time we saw them was 2 weeks ago against Grace. And hopefully they are fully healthy and ready to go against Kendrick. And then the last game I wanted to highlight was Council at Kamei in a non-conference battle. They played each other last year. Kamei got the win. And the Cubs, I think have a good shot at going 2-0 here against a Council team that, is still having a couple of issues. And we'll talk more about Council when we get to the long pin conference part of the program. But that's what's going on in the White Pine League this week up in District 2 in North Idaho. Okay. The biggest, I think, storyline, the biggest headline from last week was not in the White Pine League. We just started there because that's where the most exciting game was. I think the biggest headline, Coach Kirkland, was Raft River beating Grace 56-42, a Grace team that had just beaten Oakley. This was Raft River's season debut. Raft River trailed in this game in the second half. Didn't really seem to matter. Kai Ward, 287 yards rushing, 64 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns in all, 6 on the ground, 1 through the air, 13 tackles, and an interception on defense. He was obviously our IdahoSports.com player of the game in the come from behind win presented by the Idaho Office of Highway Safety. Are we worried about Grace at all? Because that was kind of a shocking outcome, I thought.
Yeah, well, first of all, I heard that Kai Ward gave Ashton Gentry a call on Sunday and said, "Hey, I got you by 20 yards and 1 score. What do you got next week?" Is that true, Kai?
No. Well,
I'm going to run with that. I'm telling that story on the air tomorrow night.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's go for it. Raft River never quits. I've seen some games and been in games with those guys. They just never quit, and they have a great coaching staff. They have a great organization, some pride there, and a few players that can do some amazing things, and they put them in the right spots and make great play calls. And I don't think they get lucky. I think they know what they're doing, and they just seem to get the job done. And Kai Ward has been coming on over the years, and he's had a lot of playing time over the years because he's had to fill in quite a few gaps. So his experience is paying off and leading the Trojans to some good football. Worried about Grace? Well, it's a challenge. That'll be something that they're going to have to think about this week, and I'd hate to be the team that's playing Grace this weekend because it's rebound time, and sometimes that team kind of gets a whooping. But Grace will be fine. There's some kids there, and they'll learn a lesson from that loss, and we'll see them again late in November.
Yes, I think I'm not worried about Grace. I still think they have Final Four potential. I would just add that I think Raft River now has Final Four potential this year as well. And Coach Kirkland hit the nail on the head with Raft River. They've had to plug some holes the last couple of years because of injuries, to the point where younger guys have had to been thrown into the lineup. They've had to move guys. 1 week you're playing on the offensive line, the next week you're playing running back. Because the last couple of years, I think, have really been battle. It's helped battle test Raft River, and I think now, if everybody can stay healthy, I think Raft River could get back to that level that we're used to seeing them at.
Yeah, I have a series of moles all over the state, if you will, people in different parts of the state who are seeing teams that I'm not able to see as much. And I was talking to one of my moles down in the District 4 area, and we were talking specifically about Raft River. And I told him, just as the conversation went, my sense was kind of, as long as Raft has a healthy Kai Ward, they're going to be a handful for anybody. If he goes down for an extended period of time, I'm not sure. They might be fine. I don't know that. I don't know that you can. I don't know that you can take that top bell cow back out of any 8-man lineup and not have some sort of a ripple effect. So I'd be curious to see. I'm anxious to learn more about this team as they continue to play week to week. But you go up against that Grace team that really locked Oakley down, and you run for almost 300 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's a shot across the bow to the rest of the state that, if you were thinking that Raft River is going to be a dub on the schedule, you might want to reconsider that.
Yeah. Great start to the year for the Trojans. They're 1-0. Grace is now 1-1. All right, Coach Kirkland, you talked about I wouldn't want to be the team that's got to play Grace. That is Murtaugh. And Murtaugh had a tough one at Cary last Friday night as well. This was a battle of preseason favorites. Cary, the preseason favorite in our 1A coaches poll in District 4. Murtaugh tied with Oakley at the top of our preseason coaches poll at the 2A level. 17 seconds in, Stockton Sears, 70-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Cary was off to the races from there. Adam Engel from the Times News over in the Magic Valley counted up the number of jumping, because the Cary cheerleaders do jumping jacks after every touchdown that's scored. He did the math. They did 306 jumping jacks last Friday night, Coach Kirkland, in that 62-32.
I needed to give one of my, I wish I would have seen that, because I would have given one of my 3 stars awards to whoever decided we're going to do jumping jacks instead of push-ups. Because normally it's push-ups. And I always think those people that, okay, it's time to do 58 push-ups during this kickoff here. I've always kind of wondered about them a little bit. Jumping jacks, much smarter. Much smarter.
Yeah. I went to the game in Murtaugh and saw that opening kickoff, and then just started counting those jumping jacks myself. It has been a tradition, and they got their workout in. But the Murtaugh had a good team. They were prepared. They were ready to play. Their opening drive, I thought, was very impressive. It was like 12 to 15 plays without any errors for a score. But Cary just seemed to bounce back, and they were powerful. Coach Saley has been working on the run game, and that was effective. He was relentless with that, with a few passes here and there. And then, of course, the defense wreaked some havoc and got a few turnovers to go ahead and to keep pushing in that lead there. But Preston Wood led his team very well. A.J. Black in the backfield for Cary was very impressive and carrying dudes, which is really fun to watch and to see. And then Will Park on defense, wearing, of course, another number 40 that the Parks are historic wearing, did an amazing job at middle linebacker. So the Panthers started off very well and were very impressive in that opening game against Murtaugh. But Murtaugh, once again, I thought Coach Young had them very well prepared, and they're not a slouch team. I think Cary just had their number that night and got some fortunate turnovers. But Sawyer Young is a great, amazing player, and that ball club will still continue to do well down there in the Snake River Conference.
Yeah, Madden Perks, who made our all-name team last season as a freshman, well, now he's playing as a sophomore. He had 2 interceptions on defense for Cary, and then you mentioned it, Sawyer Young in his senior season at quarterback for Murtaugh. He rushed for more than 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, Coach Kirkland, the question was going to be, we knew under Todd Jensen, the old coach, Murtaugh was going to line up and pound the ball at you using a variety of backs. We wondered, with Chad Young now taking the reins as the head coach, would Murtaugh's style change? It looks like, just looking at the numbers, they still want to run the rock, but maybe a little more QB power instead of the tailback. But what did you see from Murtaugh on offense?
Yeah, Sawyer started at quarterback for a bit and then went out with an injury for a series or so, and then came back in at running back position. And I'm telling you, when he hit the hole, he was dangerous. And he was a great and amazing runner, really able to see the whole field and cut back with some really good speed. But he's another dangerous player down there that's kind of leading his team like every team has. And he's a good kid. And the Perkins kid played a great game as well, filling in at the quarterback position, and he's dangerous as well.
Interesting. Okay, so Sawyer Young played a little running back too. See, this is why we have the coach on, because you're not going to get that context anywhere else. So It's a good nugget to store away. Okay, let's continue through the Sawtooth Conference. Hagerman got their season started by hosting Chalice, season debut for the Vikings as well. Chalice now a 1A program, no longer a 2A. They petitioned down a 62-0 victory for the Pirates. Kai Kendall, 5 catches, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns. Wyatt Mavenkamp threw 10 passes, completed 6, 4 touchdowns, 175 yards. Martin Gonzalez, 109 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns on just 6 touches. I think he's the X factor for Hagerman this year. He is a true home run threat every time he touches the ball. One of the fastest guys in the conference. Hagerman, picks up a 62-0 win. and they're going to be right in the mix, making the jump up from 1A to 2A this season. And then we had Butte County take on Valley, and this was an interesting one. Butte County got the win 40-22. Really, it was Rawson Twitchell and Razor Duke. They both carried the ball pretty equally. Razor Duke, 10 carries, 85 yards and a touchdown. Rawson Twitchell, 8 carries, 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it was what they did on defense. Rawson Twitchell, 17 tackles on defense with a sack. Coden Crosh, 10 tackles on defense with an interception. Truly an impressive performance. And Coach Kirkland, I think Valley could walk away from this matchup with Butte County feeling pretty good about themselves. Even though they lost 40-22, they hung in and battled tough.
They did. And of course, I have the game film on that because we're playing Butte County here this week. And I watched it on Huddle a couple different times and very impressed with both teams. It was close, honestly, going into the fourth quarter at 24-8 with 10 minutes left or so. And the game was not put away. Valley kept punching and Butte rallying when they needed to. It was a score fest to kind of finish the game back and forth. Some of those holes finally opening up on each side of the ball. But Valley is a threat. And to stay that close and hang with a really great Butte County team who's still very mentally tough and physically tough. Getting plays done when it's time to get plays done was a great takeaway for the Valley squad.
Yeah, and again, what I've heard from Butte County this year is that Rawson Twitchell's going to be the main back. Razor Duke's going to be kind of like Brody Westergaard was last year. They'll play him at running back. They'll line him up at receiver. They'll put him in the slot. They'll kind of move him all over. And then, of course, Keaton Archibald, the guy spinning the ball, continuing to do a fantastic job. So on the non-conference schedule this week, Hagerman, after that 62-0 win against Chalice, they'll play down again. They'll go to Water Springs. It'll be the season debut for the Warriors. Their game got wiped out because of the smoke last week. We talked about Murtaugh having to travel to Grace, and let's just show it off here. Butte County at Cary. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Kirkland. This is a brand new thing that they're playing for, right? This new trophy and this new rivalry. They've dubbed this, right?
Yeah, it's brand new. I think we tried to start it 10 years ago when I was at the Craters working with Coach Thorngren, but with our green pants. But I think it's a great thing, and we've always had a good relationship between us and Butte County, and it's something fun for both communities to come together and to own and brag a little bit about, and to put something more on the line. So
how far is that drive, Coach?
It's only 43 miles. It's pretty windy. It's actually kind of a fun drive, especially if you have a sports car, which I don't, but I would imagine it is. I pretend I have one. But, great.
Probably not fun in one of those big yellow buses then.
Yeah, I get kind of seasick like on a big boat. But I anticipate this to be a great shootout here on the Panther Field. I think Sam is going to bring a good game here, and his kids are rallied. He said he's got a few more kids that were injured that will play this week. I don't know who those are or what contributions they'll make, but he sounded pretty positive. Also visiting with Coach Saley for about an hour the other night about this game and the Murtaugh game. He feels pretty good as well. He's got some things down and some goals that he wants to achieve. And I think this is going to be actually a closer game than people will think, and a positive for both squads. I think if Cary can keep it close and move the ball, then they're going to be right in it, and there could be an upset.
Yeah, I think a key guy is going to be AJ Black on defense, because he's a pretty good pass rusher when he wants to, put his hand down and get back there. So I think that could be a key. Here's what they're playing for. It's called the Crater Bowl. And of course, Coach Kirkland shared the story last year on the 8-Man Prepcast about how you worked during the summers with Coach Thorngren at Craters of the Moon. All right, here's the trophy we're playing for tomorrow night, the Crater Bowl. I like it. It looks good. Did you have any input on the design, Coach?
I wonder who gave him that rock, because there's nobody supposed to take a rock from that park, Coach Thorngren. You know that. Probably came out of Cary's backyard or Arco's backyard. Everybody's got one, but that's pretty. It's nice. It probably weighs about 300 pounds. Maybe they'll bring it in on a pallet or a forklift, perhaps, to the center field. Maybe Tom Cruise will even drop it in here out of a plane. Who knows? I like it.
Oh yeah, I can't hype the game up any more than that. That was like you're really becoming a showman here in your second season in the media, Coach Kirkland.
He's developing as a player here.
Yeah, I got to keep up with you guys.
We love it. Will, the last matchup I wanted to touch on from District 4 this week is this Raft River at Notice game. So Raft River now 1-0, and they've got everybody's undivided attention after what they did to Grace last week. Notice, meanwhile, they fell in a tight game with Tri-Valley, 38-32. We'll talk more about it when we get to the long pin conference in our 1A discussion. But all right, Notice said, hey, we got to start scheduling better because our league is not going to adequately prepare us for what we're going to see in the postseason, we think. And so here you go. Here's your shot. You're going to host Raft River. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, that's a good matchup. It's a really good matchup for both teams in that Raft River. Okay, Raft River, you got to show, okay, last week wasn't a fluke. And Notice, like you said, they want to show the state, hey, we can play with the big boys. And you got a Raft River team coming off of a big dub, and now they're coming to your field out here in Canyon County, just outside of Caldwell. It's going to be a fun environment. It's going to be a fun atmosphere, and I expect it to be a pretty good football game. I wouldn't read too much into last week losing by 6 points to a good Tri-Valley team, a good 1A team. I wouldn't read too much into that. I still think Notice is a team that's they're going to have a fine season, and they're going to be tough to handle this week. I think it's going to be a good, fun, hard, physical, tough game.
Yeah, you noted this in your 8-man 3 stars column this week on IdahoSports.com, Will. We're 2 weeks into the season, and the 2A Western Idaho Conference as a league has played one game. It was that Notice Tri-Valley game last week. Rimrock got wiped out because of smoke. Idaho City got wiped out because of smoke. Wilder's game got canceled due to smoke. And then we found out after last week's show, we were talking about this Centennial Baptist Gem State co-op, and last year they also co-opted with Greenleaf Friends. Unfortunately, low numbers had to fold before the season even got started. So if you were wondering what happened to Gem State on all of the schedules on IdahoSports.com, there's the story. We hate to see that, but it makes what was a 5-team conference now a 4-team league. And I'm just excited that we finally get to see some of these teams in action. Horseshoe Bend is going to be at Idaho City. Hanson will be at Rimrock. Cascade will be at Wilder. So all 3 of Notice's contemporaries will host games this week. Which of those 3 are you most excited to see, Will?
I think I'm most intrigued by Rimrock. I really am. They got a lot of kids back, including Ronaldo Gomez, fantastic player. I think that they've been building towards something for a couple of years now, and I think it's not a do or die year for them by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the year when they seem to have a pretty good cast of characters, and you get a chance to get a win right out of the gates. I look at these 3 games, and if I'm looking at the Western Idaho Conference as a whole, if I'm Idaho City, if I'm Rimrock, if I'm Wilder, these are games I'm expecting to walk away with from a win. I should say. They're not going to be walkovers. They're not going to be easy. Those other teams are going to come in ready to trade some punches, and they're going to try and get a win too. But these are games that if you want your league to step forward, these are the kind of games you need to win.
Yep. These are absolute. Now that only the conference champ is guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, all the rest are via the Max Preps rankings. You got to bankroll some wins early if you're these other teams over there in District 3. All right. This is the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast presented by Ideal, Idaho's college savings program, and the Idaho Office of Highway Safety. We'll take a break, and we'll come back and tell you what's going on in the 1A landscape. We'll be right back right after this break on IdahoSports.com.
Later.
He's here. Girl, thank you.
Hello?
I was in an accident.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I had my seatbelt on.
This year, help dreams come true with the Ideal Idaho 529 Education Savings Program. Our easy-to-use tools make it simple to plan for your child's education. With tax benefits, ownership flexibility, Ideal is the perfect way to save for college, trade school, K-12 education, and student loan repayment. Join us at our next webinar to learn more about the 529 plan. Enrolling takes just 15 minutes and you can start with just $25. Visit idsaves.org if you would like to learn more.
Welcome back here to the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, presented by the Idaho Office of Highway Safety and Ideal, Idaho's college savings program. Brandon Baney with Will Hoenike and the coach Lane Kirkland. Okay, guys, before we get to the 1A slate, I got some really exciting news from Ideal, Idaho's college savings program. This is something we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, but now we can share it. It is public information. They're running a contest. That's right. It's the Ideal 8-Man Prepcast drawing. One winner is going to have a chance to receive a $529 contribution into an Ideal Idaho education savings account. And why $529? Because, well, it's the Ideal 529. That's the code that's used for the program. It can be used for college, it can be used for trade school, an apprenticeship, a graduate program, and so many more options nationwide. You don't even need an account with Ideal to enter, although if you win, you'll want to put that into an Ideal account. Now, here's the catch, guys. It is for 1A and 2A students only, which I love. They're trying to give back to Idaho's smaller communities and smaller schools. So we have a lot of people that are watching live, and I want you to spread the word on this because it's going to be one winner gets drawn at random. The deadline to enter is 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, October 25th. So you've got plenty of time to enter. The winner will be announced November 1st. One lucky entrant will be randomly selected to win $529 to be deposited into an Ideal Idaho 529 education savings account. For more information, you can go to this website right here, www.idsaves.org/home/Idaho Sports. Coach Kirkland, how cool is this? Ideal going to help out a young man or woman from one of Idaho's smallest schools, either a 2A or 1A, and $529 to help start that post-high school educational career or trade career. That's awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. And if we were in a huddle or together, maybe across Idaho, we could give a little 3 claps for Ideal, baby. Nice job and way to give back to small schools. Very kind, very generous, and perfect offering for those listening out there on the podcast for small schools.
For sure. All right, Coach Kirkland. So you got to spread the word amongst.
Let's go. Yep.
Yep. All right. So we'll talk about this every week on the show. Again, the deadline to enter is October 25th, right before midnight. Winner will be drawn November 1st, and then we will announce the winner shortly thereafter. All right. Let's go to the 1A ranks. Let's start with districts 4, 5, and 6. That would be the Sawtooth Conference of District 4, the Rocky Mountain Conference of Districts 5 and 6. They all kind of play these crossover games early on in the season. Will, you were at this game in person. You made the trip up to Fairfield last Friday to watch Rockland take on Camas County in a non-con showdown. Rockland gets the 60-14 victory. What were your takeaways from the game?
Rockland looked really good. Camas County, they've got a little work to do, and I think they knew they had a little bit of work to do, but then they had a player that they were expecting big things from at the quarterback position, got injured over the summer. He's not available to play. And then there was their all-state lineman, Kelby Cox, is moved, so they don't have him either. So they've got some holes to fill and some questions to answer, and despite the score, I think they started to answer them. I think they had some players. Levi Ashmead had a really nice game. A couple of their younger players stepped up as the game went on and made some big plays. And I think that they're still going to be a factor in their league. But, flipping the page to Rockland, boy, they looked good. And, Coach Hunter before the game I got a chance to visit with him, and it's nice to finally put faces with some of these names, some of these people that I talked to either via email, via text, whatever. and it was great to visit with him. And he was really excited to see Xavier Parrish at quarterback, sophomore, taking over for Teague Matthews. Comes out and leads them on 3 touchdown drives in the first quarter. Throws 3 touchdown passes, and then unfortunately he gets hurt. Now, however, they have a player, Isaac Held, that they can slide over from receiver to quarterback, and this guy looks like a little bit smaller version of Teague Matthews. He's 6'2", 6'3". He's a long strider. He can cover a lot of ground when he gets out in the open field. He throws a nice ball. He wound up, I think he threw 3 touchdowns and ran in like 2 more. That he looked really, really good. And I thought I thought they were tremendous. They were balanced. Not only do you have Held, you've got Zachary Perman, you've got Radford, the young man who was All-State last year. They've got some pieces where if they're, and I say this with the caveat of they're already down 1 player, they're already down Xavier Parrish, and they're not sure how long he'll be out yet. But if they can stay healthy, they're going to be able to put a scare in some people. They've got some skill.
And Coach Kirkland on the other side with Camas County, that's the precarious position you're in when you're one of the smallest 1A schools there is, just in terms of total student population. All it takes is an injury and a kid moving, and all of a sudden your program is taking hits left and right.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. You need to have those guys there to assist. But I'm pretty sure that Big Ben will get those guys going again in the weeks to come. There's some pride left in Camas County, and they'll train those young kids up, and whoever fills those holes will do well and continue to challenge as they meet each week ahead.
Yep, I do. I really do.
Looking up a name here. Hang on, I'm going to name drop. Austin Newton. Remember that name. He was one of the adjustments that they made for Camas County, and they got him in. He's a sophomore. They got him in at running back, and he looked the part. I think he's going to be a nice player for him.
Okay. And yeah, Mushers fans, it's 1 game. Rockland, I think, has Final Four potential at the 1A level this year. I think Camas County is still a playoff team this year, just maybe not the dominant juggernaut conference champ that we've seen the past couple of years. Now they could still win the conference, but I think they're really going to have to work at it, and hope they can't suffer really any more attrition on the roster. But I do think Camas County is going to be right in that playoff mix this year for sure. Okay, so Rockland got a win. North Gem gets a win. They beat Castleford 52-6. And hey, Yost and Hatch, what do you know? Craig Yost, 17 carries, 206 yards, 4 touchdowns. Rusty Hatch, 21 carries, 149 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So Coach Kirkland, after Craig Yost and Rusty Hatch combined for 7 rushing TDs, Coach Corey Hatch decided to open up that playbook. Rusty got to throw it twice. 1 for 2 passing, 22 yards to Lucky Welker. How about that?
Wasted play. Come on, Coach Hatch. Why are you throwing the ball?
When he first texted me, he said that Hatch threw the ball 3 times. And I thought to myself, what is going on over there? And then he's like, no, wait. One of them was called back because of a penalty, so we technically only threw it twice. I'm like, okay, that's a little better.
That's it. Delete those passes. Man, we don't want those on there. Of course, as expected, 4-wheel drive for those guys, lock in the hubs and turn left and turn right, Hatch and Yost. Oh, that's a lot of big yards right there.
Yeah. So North Tim gets off to a great start. And then Mackey was in action against Dietrich. Dietrich picked up a 42-6 victory. Will, you got a little bit of info from this game. It sounds like Connor Perkins didn't play in this one.
Yeah, I'm told Connor Perkins didn't play. A young man named Gavin Hoskison stepped in, a sophomore at quarterback, and did a nice job, kept the engine humming. And, when you have a player at your disposal like Brody Torgerson, that you can just get the ball in his hands and just say go, that helps significantly. And Mackey, I talked to their coach a little bit after the game as well, and he told me, he said, hey, my kids fought, my kids battled. We just got a little bit behind. He particularly commended a defensive end, Taylor Rogers, said he did a really nice job setting the edge, which made it a little bit difficult for Dietrich. They had to change a couple things that they did. So they're going to be a team that's in the mix in that 5-6 district race with North Gem and with Rockland, but Dietrich looked the part, especially considering you're not, you played without your all-conference quarterback, and you still got a season-opening win, a fairly comfortable win.
Yeah. One special note with Dietrich this year, their previous coach, Rick Estelle, did tragically pass away after a long and lengthy battle with kidney disease. It never took his spirit, but by the end of his career and tenure, he was co-coaching essentially with his nephew, Brody Estelle, and then Brody kind of took the reins last year. Brody has since moved to Montana, so Brody's cousin and Rick's son, Garrett Estelle, is now in his first season as Dietrich's coach. But this year, the Blue Devils are going to wear a special helmet sticker honoring Coach Rick Estelle. It's got his old high school number, 78, and it's in the color green, which is the color for kidney disease awareness. Coach Kirkland, just a classy move over there in Dietrich.
For sure. Yeah. A couple passing of some great coaches there at Dietrich and Rick Estelle as well. I think that's a great honor for those kids to do that. Rick was a great competitor, a great coach, defeated Cary in 2020 in a championship game and worked hard to get that, and was very proud of that. And the community will miss them, but what a great honor for Garrett to be able to take that head position and have some great assistants there. And I don't think that they will miss a beat, and because Dietrich always prepares hard. They like to win, and they play for each other and for those that have passed on.
Yep. Rick Estelle, really good girls basketball coach at Dietrich for a long time there as well. So the schedule this week: Rockland at Dietrich. That is Will, you gonna go 2 weeks in a row to go see Rockland play? I mean, that's the matchup, right? Rockland at Dietrich. I can't think of a bigger matchup at the 1A level.
You're putting me to work tomorrow night, so I can't. But I will very much have my eye on it, and I will have moles who are there reporting back to me for whatever that's worth. But yeah, that's a great matchup, and I think it's a tremendous measuring stick for both teams, because I think that as we look at it right now, on September 5th. These are two of the teams that I think you can expect to be playing in November, potentially pretty deep in November into the 1A classification. So let's put you on the field. Let's line you up and let's see what you can do.
Yep. Other games this week: North Gem at Shoshone. Shoshone lost to Hagerman's JV in a tight battle last week by 4 points. So they're looking to get off the schneid at 0-1. North Gem coming to town to play Shoshone. Camas County will be at Mackey. Chalice will be at Richfield. Richfield making their season debut. They will welcome in Chalice. In the Long Pin Conference, guys, Council went up to play Lewis County. They played it in Craigmont. They played the early season games in Craigmont, the late season games in Nez Perce there in that Lewis County co-op up in District 2. Council got a 28-8 victory. Owen Hatfield ran for 2 touchdowns and then hit Garrison Zielinski for 2 more touchdowns for Council in the win. Lewis County started 3 freshmen, and midway through the game, they put a 4th one out there. So half of the unit basically was freshmen. So Coach Monty Madrell having that diaper dandy squad this year. Council, though, from what I could glean from this game, they had some early turnovers, and that was the big problem for them last year, especially in that opening round playoff upset loss to Dietrich. They've had problems taking care of the ball in certain situations. Coach Kirkland, that's got to be like the number one thing that drives a coach nuts, right?
Turnovers. You don't even know what to say or how mad to get, because you can't do anything about it. You just got to wait till you get the ball back again and hope you don't do it again. It can slow down an offense in a hurry and really kind of change the attitude of a team, so to speak, if you don't fix it the next series and move the ball. So Council will have to work on that and their discipline issues with that, squeezing the ball, whatever it may have been in the turnover scenario. And to be a better team, you got to take care of that football.
And that was the thing, Will, is last year, they had that confidence of, it's all right, we can overcome it. We're the long pin champs. But eventually you're going to run into somebody that's going to make you pay for those turnovers.
Well, and that's exactly what happened. When they ran into Dietrich, they ran into a team that could really make them pay the price. And I think there's a couple of teams in their league that if they're not careful and they don't take care of the ball in Tri-Valley and Garden Valley, I think either one of those teams are going to be able to line up with them and really take advantage. So I think Council, player for player, I think they're very talented. I think that they're going to be in the conversation every week when we're talking about teams in the 1A classification ready to make a move. But yeah, ball security is going to be big. But at the end of the day, Coach Tucker and his staff and his kids can say, okay, we kind of had a little bit of fumble fingers, but we're 1-0. Let's correct it and let's move on.
Yep. We also had Tri-Valley defeat Notice 38-32 in that guys, this game was like 14-12 at halftime or something. It was pretty low scoring, and then both sides just exploded in the second half. I watched a little bit of the game film. Tri-Valley, Jace Wagoner had 3 rushing touchdowns, also threw a touchdown pass to Gage George. Gage George had a touchdown receiving and a touchdown rushing. And then Eli Noah, who's a younger guy, he had a rushing touchdown as well. So, Will, in this game, I thought both teams played well. Notice had their chances at the end to win it. I think both of these teams are going to be pretty feisty this year.
Oh, absolutely. And I talked to a coach who saw Tri-Valley up at an Eastern Oregon team camp, and he said they were the best 8-man team there. They didn't have the most numbers, but he said as far as the way they played on the field and what they were able to do when the refs blew the whistle and said, let's go, or the coaches blew the whistle and let's go, as the case may be, he was really impressed with Tri-Valley, with their athleticism, with their speed, and just overall they're a good football team. And notice, like we talked about earlier, they're going to be okay. They're going to have to find a way to get some wins this year, but I think that they'll take care of business and they'll be in position to go to the playoffs when it's all said and done.
Yep. So this week on the schedule for the long pin, Tri-Valley is at Lewis County. You might remember when they played last year, both teams scored over 50 points, and it came down to basically a QB sneak as time expired for Tri-Valley. They got the win. Now they get the rematch. Garden Valley is going to be at Castleford as well. Season debut for the Wolverines. Didn't get to play last week. Their game got canceled due to smoke. Coach Kirkland, you know the two coaches here pretty well. Jason Yearsley at Garden Valley, Brian Lowry at Castleford. What do you think of this matchup between Garden Valley and Castleford?
I think it'll be a good season opener for Garden Valley to get started down there at Castleford. Castleford's a young team, a couple seniors I hear, and a bunch of sophomores. But Brian always has those kids ready to go. Coach Lowry has got them ready to go, and those kids played hard. They were great in junior high, and they always step up. They played a lot last year, some of those kids from Castleford, and I anticipate that they'll be feisty and do their best to compete against Garden Valley. But Coach Yearsley has been around a long time, and he's got some great experience, and I think he'll come into town guns a-slinging and have his boys ready to execute and to play ball. They're starving to get on a field against competition and tired of practice. So I'm sure they're excited to see somebody else on the opposite side. They don't know.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, let's wrap up with the North Star League up in District 1. Really, it sure looks like Wallace and Lakeside are headed for a collision here. They'll play for the first time because it's a double round robin league slate. So they will play for the first time next Friday in Worley. And then the rematch comes late October in Wallace. Lakeside beats Clark Fork 54-6. Wallace beats Coeur de Christ last week 70-26. Special shout out to Julian Davis, 10 catches, 157 yards, 4 touchdowns, added 49 yards and a score on the ground. Will, it is, I can't wait. I think we may pivot on IdahoSports.com and see if we can broadcast that Wallace Lakeside game next Friday, because that is going to be, I think, must-see football.
It should be a lot of fun. They're two very explosive teams, talented quarterbacks, talented playmakers around them. And the one thing that's hard to replace, and Coach, you can talk more about this, when there's positive energy around you, it can boost you to another level. You can be a good football team, but you feel kind of down on yourself for one reason or another. You don't play that well. But these are two teams that should feel good about themselves, and they should come into this game ready to put on a show. And you get them on the turf under the lights. Hopefully there's not a 50-mile-an-hour wind where you're trying to hold down your tent if you go back there again this time. But Cooper Miller and Tyson Charlie, and let's just go around the horn. I mean, we can just list off the names. The North Star for a long time, for the past several years, it's been basically the Mullins-St. Regis show, and justifiably, they've had a good team. But, of course, they're competing in Montana this year. But when it comes to postseason play, I shouldn't even say that. I think that sometimes – the North Star League's just kind of been that cute little league up in North Idaho. I think maybe that's a better way to put it. I think what we've seen so far is both Wallace and Lakeside probably better get taken seriously, or they're going to jump up and bite somebody.
Yep. It's going to be a really fun showdown in 2 weeks. But first, Wallace has to play Clark Fork. That is this Friday. Speaking of that Mullen St. Regis co-op, we'll kind of keep an eye on our friends from Mullen this year as they compete in Montana. They had to play one of the best teams over the past couple of seasons, the Mission Bulldogs from St. Ignatius. Coach, did you ever have any encounters with Mission High School from St. Ignatius when you were in Montana for those 8-man clinics?
No, I did not. No, mostly the Drummond guys and Noxon and Charlo.
Okay. I mean, those are all good teams too, but they had to play Mission and lost 34-8 in St. Regis in their season opener. So Jesse Allen coaching the Tigers alone this year. Stetson Spooner hung up his whistle, but we'll keep an eye on Mullen St. Regis too. They're 0-1 to start things off in Montana and what's going to be a really tough Western C division over there, but we'll keep an eye on it for sure. All right, guys, I think we've said about all we can say about the 8-man game this week. We went just over an hour. That's my goal every week, is to try to keep it to an hour or less. So way to go, guys. Gold stars for everybody.
Yes.
All right.
Coach, it's easier when you're here. I don't feel like I have to talk as much when you're here. You add the good stuff.
I don't know about that, but it's a lot more fun to be here than sitting on the couch watching another high-speed chase series or something. No.
Now, Coach Kirkland, you're going to be at the Cary Butte County game Friday night. Are you going to be like, after the Super Bowl, Terry Bradshaw's down on the field and he's presenting the trophy to the winning team? Is that going to be your job on Friday night? You're going to be handing out the trophy?
I doubt it. I haven't heard of that yet. Oh. I'm going to take a look at it, though. I'll get a selfie next to it. How about that?
Okay, that sounds great. We want to see that on the show next week. All right, Coach Kirkland, selfie with the trophy.
I'll tweet that I'll X that thing out. No, it sounds weird if I say it that way. We'll stick with tweet. I'll tweet that thing out.
Okay, got it. Coming your way.
All right. That sounds like a lot of fun. Hey, big thanks to everybody that tuned in live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account. If you could hit that like button and then share this when it's all said and done, it'll help everybody else find it a little easier on replay. But for the coach, Lane Kirkland and Will Hoenike, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning into the Idaho 8-Man Prepcast, presented by Ideal, Idaho's college savings program, and the Idaho Office of Highway Safety here on Idaho